So this movie was directed by Brad Bird, who was best known for The Incredibles, Ratatouille, and The Iron Giant. And wait, those are all animated movies. This was his first live-action movie? Oh boy. Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to another Super Series Tuesday. For today we will be covering the fourth film in the Mission Impossible franchise, titled Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Ghost Protocol was released in 2011 and was directed by Brad Bird, stars Tom Cruise, Jeremy Renner, Simon Pegg, and Paula Patton. This time around the story is actually a little bit different from the other movies. It takes a step away and becomes a little bit more complicated. So this time the IMF, the Impossible Mission Force, is actually framed for the bombing of the Kremlin in Russia, and because of that the US government is actually forced to enact the Ghost Protocol, hence the name, which means that the IMF no longer exists. But, of course, Tom Cruise can't do that, so him and his team go rogue, essentially, and go on the hunt for the actual bomber to clear the IMF's name. First and foremost, guys, obviously, I mean, he's probably gonna be number one on all of these lists until someone one-ups him. The number one positive, guys, is gonna go to Tom Cruise. How could it not? Not only, once again, is he Ethan Hunt, probably his best role ever. I'm pretty sure, like, this is my favorite character that he's ever played, and the fact that he played him so many times is amazing. He's the same Ethan Hunt that you know from 3 and 1. He's smart, he's slick, he's always under control, he's a great action star, he's the number one operative for the IMF. This is where the big stunts came in that Tom Cruise did on his own, and for those of you who don't know, Tom Cruise does like 80 to 90% of his own stunts, and this is where it starts to get big, like absolutely insane. I would get to why later, but yeah, there's not many out there in Hollywood that are like this guy. Next is that this movie just about perfected the formula that was made in the third movie. It, you know, that sweet spot that the third movie found between spy, thriller, and action, this movie pretty much perfected. You know, the action in this movie is great, the hand-to-hand combat is really good, it's very well choreographed, it looks amazing, the gunfights in this are really good, the knife fights, the car chases, the actual chases, a lot of the stunts in this movie. So overall, yeah, it took everything that the third one did and pretty much did it better. The third one used a lot of shaky cam, this one uses almost no shaky cam, so you have a lot of really nice, just smooth shots of the hand-to-hand combat, and it looks really, really pretty, really nice. You know, finally you don't have to worry about it being a bit jarring and not being able to see everything. You can see everything crystal clear in this movie, and it looks really well done. Next is the fact that this movie travels a lot, and the more settings made it feel like a bigger movie. We travel to Russia, we travel to Dubai, we travel to Mumbai. There's just a lot of really nice sweeping shots of cities and the deserts, and just the sheer beauty of all these different locations made for a really enjoyable experience. You really felt like you were going on this journey with these characters, and I really enjoyed that. Next is just the supporting cast overall. Simon Pegg is back. He had a little role in Mission Impossible 3 as Benji, but this time he is a full-blown supporting character. He is there throughout most of the movie. He also acts as the comedic relief for a good portion of it. He's not like stupid bumbling comedic relief where you're just like, oh my god, how did this guy become an IMF agent? No, he is actually like a really good character. He's smart. He's more of a techie guy, but now he's a field agent, and he does know how to handle himself, but you know, he just kind of has that signature Simon Pegg comedic vibe to him, but he is very good as the comedic relief as well. Next is Jeremy Renner, possibly my favorite new addition to this franchise. He knows how to handle himself, and you know, he just has a really good on-screen presence. He's a very likable guy. He cracks a lot of jokes, but he's also very serious. He knows how to get the job done, and I love him being in this movie. And next is Paula Patton, who is like pretty much the only leading lady in this movie. She takes over that role, and she also does a phenomenal job. She is very slick. She gets in a lot of fights, like hand-to-hand, a lot of gunfights. She knows how to handle herself, and she also knows how to kind of turn up that charm to seduce guys when she needs to. She is really great in this role, and I really, really like her as well. And next is the fact that this movie is so team-oriented, which I really liked about it, because like I said, since they went rogue and they're kind of out on their own, you just focus on these four for pretty much the entire movie. It's a very character-oriented film, and that's what I like about it so much. You really do dive into these people's pasts and the conflicts within them. Now, I'm not going to get into any spoilers, but there are some dark secrets within these guys and some reasons that they made decisions. So there's a lot going on in this movie, and not just from the supporting cast as well. Tom Cruise also, you know, even though Tom Cruise has already had 3 movies to flesh out his character, you still are finding more and more and more about this guy, and I absolutely love that. The fact that they can keep this character so interesting even in the 4th film. And now we are finally getting to that point that I was talking about earlier with the crazy stunts. Tom Cruise scales the Burj Khalifa. Yeah, the tallest building in the world, located in Dubai. That was actually done, guys. There was no CGI used in the making of that shot, aside from just removing like the wires and nets and stuff. He actually did it. I read that it also made Brad Bird really happy that he did it himself, because he didn't have to kind of have these really awkward camera angles to kind of hide the stunt double's face. Now he was able to show Tom Cruise and all of his glory doing this stunt himself. And next is the fact that, like I said, with Simon Pegg being the comedic relief, he's not the only comedic relief. They actually injected quite a bit of comedy in this movie, but don't worry, it's not awkward. The comedy in this movie has a really nice natural flow to it. It feels very genuine, so I like that about it too. And next is the spy work in this movie. I really liked this as well because there was a lot of scheming, a lot of planning, and the thing that sets this movie apart from the other ones is the fact that since they're on their own, they really can't just kind of call for backup, call this person to do this, call this person to do that, which happens actually a lot in the third one. No, they are on their own, and whatever they have on them at that time when the IMF gets shut down, that's all they have. They're just actually acting as vigilantes right now. So they have to do a lot of stuff just kind of bare bones, which is very good in this movie. I felt like it led to a lot of really just nail-biting intense scenes, and I thought that part was great. Nothing in the middle ground today, so right into the negatives. And this one I guess could have been in the middle ground, depends on who you are. For me, it annoyed me enough to end up in the negatives because it took me out of some scenes, and that was just kind of the sound effects in this movie. I felt like a lot of the punches from a lot of the fight scenes sounded cartoony. And even some of the guns, like they sound almost cartoony, like the silenced pistols, and just overall some of the kicks and punches really didn't feel real, which really sucks because the choreography is very well done in this movie, but the sound effects really made it feel fake in some scenes for me. And these next two aren't really big negatives. The first one here is like it kind of has Fast and Furious syndrome, and what I mean by that is that these characters survive absolutely ridiculous things. There's so many times that Tom Cruise especially should have died in this movie, and just by a stroke of luck he doesn't. It's not a huge knock because it is a big action franchise and it is supposed to do these things to keep you entertained and keep you on the edge of your seat, which it does, but sometimes I'm just like, alright, I feel like you would have been at least heard a little bit more than that. And next is the CGI in this movie. There's barely any in it, which is good, at least not much that I noticed. But the few times that I did notice it, I was like, yeah, that's not that great. And not to say it's noticeably bad, but it really isn't that great. And the last negative, guys, is the biggest negative for me, and that is the villain in this movie. And it's very sad to say because Michael Nyqvist, may he rest in peace. It sucks to say this, and I'm not bashing him as an actor. I think he's a phenomenal actor, and I think he always gets his best roles as villains, like in John Wick. But in this, not so much, because the villain is so poorly written. He's just your typical nuclear bomb loving Russian baddie. He's barely in the movie. First off, you see pictures of him and stuff, but he barely actually gets any on-screen time. He barely has any dialogue. His motives are so poor. He's just a nuclear extremist, which is I believe what they call him, but he just basically wants to nuke things because he wants to nuke things. That's just the way he sees it. Like, we have to nuke things because we have nukes, so let's just use them because that's why, like, you know, it's just like, that's it. So overall, guys, to summarize, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol is very good. It did take what the third one did good and probably made it even better. They definitely stepped up their game in this one. Not only the stakes are higher, but like I said, you're traveling a lot more in the world. Overall, it's just like a bigger movie in general. But again, the positives, Tom Cruise and the whole supporting cast are very well done. The spy work in this is good. The comedy in this is good. The very smaller team-oriented film makes it a very character-oriented, very character-driven film. I thought that was really well done. Climbing the Burj Khalifa, absolutely nuts. No way, I cannot give him a positive for this because that's insane. And just like I said, overall, the action is a much crisper looking movie. It's a much cleaner looking movie. It makes for a much more enjoyable experience instead of trying to figure out what's going on through the shaky cam. And the negatives, Fast and Furious syndrome, they survived a few more things than they probably should have. And the fact that, you know, there's not much CGI in this movie, but when it is in it, it's not really that good. And the sound effects sounded just really corny, really cartoony, and just kind of pulled me out of it a lot. The biggest one, which is sad again, because I love Michael Nyqvist, but the movie's villain sucks, guys. There's really no other way to put it. He's just poorly written, poor motivations. He's just your typical goofy, bad Russian dude who wants to blow stuff up. But if you were keeping track there, guys, the positives definitely do outweigh the negatives. They stack up a lot higher. And for that reason, guys, I'm going to give Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol an 8.5 out of 10. So guys, if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know, do you think Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol one-upped Mission Impossible 3? And a bonus question is, would you guys climb the Burj Khalifa, with the wires and netting and everything, of course, for the amount of money that Tom Cruise got for this? And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap.